Hello everyone, welcome back for more of the Nintember Black Box Spectacular. This is going to be kind of a longer video because Robot Gyro, also known as Gyromite, and Stack Up are pretty much unplayable as intended these days because they required the Robotic Operating Buddy, also known as R.O.B. Why is this a problem? You will see very soon, but let's talk a little bit about R.O.B for the people who have not seen AVGN's Irate Gamers and all the other videos about R.O.B. Let's go into detail on a little bit about what R.O.B is. This is R.O.B, a picture of him, and basically he is a very convoluted way to press the A and B buttons on Controller 2 when it comes to Gyromite. When it comes to Stack Up, there's a little bit of a difference. But when it comes to Gyromite, he is a very convoluted and expensive way to just press the A and B buttons. Why do I say this? Because that's all he really does. What you see R.O.B, you may recognize him from Smash Brothers. You may recognize him from, as I said, the AVGN or Irate Gamer or whoever else did videos on this thing. And if you look at his base, he has several things plugged into it. 5 different positions, in fact. Over on what would be our left, his right, he has 2 spots for the to hold tops. Those are tops. The little line you see at the bottom of the handle at the top, that's because he needs to hold it while it's spinning, and that part is just loosely set there so it can spin while he's gripped onto that. If you continue counterclockwise, you see the blue and the red plunger there. R.O.B would sit atop down onto it, and it would press the button. And if you go further back, the thing that's kind of obscured that has a little black circle on top of it, that is the spinner. R.O.B would plunk a top into that, and it's powered by D-cell batteries, to give you an idea of things, and it basically would spin the top, and while the top was spinning, it would stay upright after R.O.B plunked it onto the plungers. So that was the whole gimmick. He would have to spin tops to get them to be able to stay upright so they could press buttons for you. There are many things that are wrong with this. Most notably, he does not work on today's TVs. He probably barely works now because, just a little fun fact, he was sold as a pack-in, as part of a package deal for some Nintendo Entertainment Systems. And he was sold not with the idea of actually making a peripheral that works, but with the idea of making the Nintendo look less like a video game console to parents and more like a serious computer thing. So they only made 2 games ever for this thing because, let's face it, making this thing work was horrific, to say the least. It moved about the speed of a snail that's taken a few hits of marijuana. So even after you get a top good and fast in the spinner, by the time R.O.B would go over, pick it up, and manage to get it on the plunger, it had lost half its momentum, so you had almost no time whatsoever. Plus the fact that it wouldn't stay perfectly centered on the thing, and if you were too late, it would just fall off, so you'd have to stop what you're doing in the game to go pick up the spinner yourself. So what me, and probably every other person did, was to cut R.O.B out of the equation entirely and just stick the controller in that little red and blue thing and press the pedals with my feet. Oh yeah, I mentioned that. You see how that controller is just kind of sit down that tray. Yeah, the blue button presses the A button, and the red plunger presses the B button when they are pressed down. That's all he does. That's it. 100% it. Yeah. So, with that said, this was not exactly something that was made to enhance your experience. It was pretty much made just to get parents to hopefully put the game system in the game console in their houses, after Atari's crash kind of made everyone lose faith in video games. So yeah. So how did you manage to make Robot Gyro work, or Gyromite, whichever game you want to call it? How did you manage to do that? I will show you by going into Direct. This is really the fastest. And I am going to put a warning here. There are going to be flashing lights. Very fast flashing lights, because this is how the computer can... This is how the game talked to R.O.B. It would flash a series of lights at him, and he would interpret those lights to tell him to do something. Okay? So, close your eyes for a few minutes here. I will tell you when it's safe to open them. If you are sensitive to strobes or severely flashing lights, yeah, go ahead and close your eyes. Everyone else, you can see the glory that is controlling R.O.B. Normally, while you're actually playing the game, you'd have to hit start to get this to happen. I think it's start. I'll find out in a minute. But basically, we'd start, and the professor there would look like he's pointing at a remote control at the screen. And then you'd hit either a direction or the A and B buttons. So we're going to get... Here starts the flashing lights. I'm not kidding about this. You could have him raise his arms up. You could have him lower his arms one stage. And there were only 2 stages his arms could be at, if I'm not mistaken. So you could have him all the way up or all the way down. You could have him move his arms left or right to one of the 5 different spots that he needs to stop on along the way to activate all that stuff. Or you could have him open his arms or close his arms. And yes, there we go. So let's actually test. So there we go, and that test would have made R.O.B do a little thing. I forget exactly what it made him do. So let's get in the game. And we will, and there's still going to be some flashing lights here, so keep your eyes averted if you are sensitive. But this is the base game. What you're doing, I will go into that in a minute. But basically, you're sitting there, you're the professor. The little things walking around are smicks. They are eating turnips. When they are eating turnips, they do not bite you, but if they touch Professor, they will bite you. But essentially, you're standing here, and you need to get past this pipe. To get past this pipe, you would need to have R.O.B press the A button on the controller. And to do that, you would have to sit there and probably tell him to do that. And then once he opens his arms, you would have him go probably to the right, to the right, to the right, down, close, up, left, 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 and then you can save a bit of time, say open. Then you would wait, because you gotta let the disc spin, mind you. While it's spinning, you can drop the arms. Then while it's dropping the arms, hopefully you'll finally have gotten enough speed. You can tell it to close the arms again. Once it's closed its arms, grab the top. You can tell it to go up. Then you tell it to go left. Then you tell it to go left. And then you would tell it to go open and or probably need to go down first, because if you try to drop the top onto the plunger, it didn't work too well. But then you open. And then you successfully press the blue switch. And you get those free efforts. And then then you have to go through all that and pick it up to do this. So this game was remarkably freaking difficult. Okay, now all the light show should be over now. I'm done with that. So what we're going to do is we're going to show what this game actually was. And it's a puzzle game that's not too difficult if you don't have to use R.O.B. You have a professor here. He has to catch all of the dynamite before the timer runs out. That's pretty much it. He cannot jump, so if he's on the ground level and has no vine to climb on, he's stuck on the ground level. So anyway, let's do this. We can grab these turnips. And we can put them down. And we can grab them. And we can put them down, so the smick eats it and not us. Also, these pistons that you're going back and forth will crush them and you, if you let them. If you're careful though, you can kind of tap him on the head because you're mad about the fact that R.O.B was so terrible. And that last one, you can't reach it from the ground, so you just fall on it and collect the thing. There's a reason the time limit is so generous, because even with the expanded time limit, this game was a bear to try to learn to play. Sadly, he's in a bad spot. Not for long, though. As for me, I am just over here pressing A and B buttons like we all used to do when we actually tried to play this game. We would just have our feet on the little red and blue pedals after we detach them from R.O.B and just use those to press the buttons. Yeah. But the puzzles do actually get harder. Not the hardest puzzles I've ever seen, but once you get several stages in, they will have a lot of traps and such. Okay, fine. Die. There we go. Early on, there aren't too many spots where you can completely trap yourself. Right now, it's relatively safe. The only real problem you've got are they are called smicks. The little gremlin-looking things that will bite the professor. Turnips are the only things that keep them from biting you. So this is a fairly straightforward stage. The smicks, if you don't mess up like I did, are both going to just get into the they're both going to get into turnips and be a non-issue. We'll go for a while here. I won't do that many stages because there's another game mode that you will want to play. This is the first instance of actually needing to do a thing. Always good to have a radish with you when you try to run around smicks. Are you coming this way? The smicks do not climb down vines. I've never seen them do it. So if you can just hang out on a vine under a smick, you'll be perfectly safe. I don't know why I'm giving anybody tips, because nobody's going to play this game ever again. Like I said, you cannot play it as intended anymore, which is probably good, because I don't think anyone ever played it as intended that I know of. At least once they tried it a few times. Luckily, he was eating. Which, if he hadn't been eating, that's what I've got the radish for. And obviously, this game is not meant to be the hardest of puzzles. At least not at first. I probably didn't even have to bother with them at all, but, you know. Finish your turnip so I can smush you. There we go. You know, for all I know, the professor deserves to get bitten. I don't know much about him. This mixer probably just harmless little goofballs, and he's a mad scientist experimenting on them, so that's why they're mad at him. It's possible. Let's do a couple more let's get to stage 10. Why not? As you see, it does start to get a little bit more complicated with the layouts. And this poor Smick is going to fall to their eternal uselessness. If you'd fallen down there, you would also be completely useless and have to wait the timer out or try to kill yourself. I think there is a kill yourself button. I don't remember which one it is right now. But either way, it only comes in handy late game. We're not going to get that far in this game. Either way, you have 5 lives. And yes, I'm perfectly willing to admit that this is very easy. So, I mean, it's not exactly a big challenge. Unless the timing starts to really desync a little bit. Okay, phase 10. A very overhyped card game. Also, the last stage we're going to look at here, because I think there are 100 some odd stages. Yeah, let's see if I can catch either of these. There's one. There's two. Take advantage of the enormous freaking time we have. And now we will also have to risk death. Because we need to ride this piston up right next to the ceiling. And in case you can't tell, we could try to go up here, but we have no way to go. There we go. And that's phase 10. So, let me... There we go. Show the other gameplay, which is the professor is sleepwalking, and the only thing you need to do is lower and raise the pistons to let him go. So let's play that one for a bit. We still have red and blue. We're not going to have to kill the Smicks. And if Professor hits a pipe, he will just kind of stop moving. There's no time limit. So if you really want to, you can have him sit here and mash his face against that pipe all you want to. Unfortunately, it doesn't actually do anything. You can also try to get it to wake up, but it will never work. You can tap him on the head to try to wake him up, but it does not work, sadly. We'll play a few stages of this. He will climb ropes on his own. The courses do get harder as they go, and this pipe is here for no freaking reason whatsoever other than if you activated it earlier, you would have to unactivate it to let him pass. So you see they're finally getting into making things a little more difficult, making you actually pick a path rather than just let him bump his nose into everything. If you have the red ones pressed and he gets to walk down there, he dies to Smick. You can't kill the Smick, but it can sure kill you. I'm pretty sure that's it for the stage. It was just that one little section. And here we go again. You see... Okay, we can't kill the Smicks here for once. So now you see that there is an arrow pointing that we should go left or go to the bottom path. Not every arrow will be avoiding death. It will just be taking you on a different thing. And I believe you get an extra few points for grabbing the arrows. But notice that if we had not followed the arrow, we would be dumped into a Smick. And we can pick the top or the bottom here. Both take us to the next stage. They will just determine where you start. So see, if we pick the bottom, we would have started on the lower half. And I think this is all of this I'm going to show off. You can see how much of a absolute pain this would be if you were trying to use R.O.B. And don't get me wrong, this is going to make you do some things. This is going to make you make the professor stop moving to avoid death in certain stages. But not this one. So see, I would have to hit start and I would have to make all the commands. So, you know. That's enough. And besides, you can start on whatever phase you actually want to, up to what you've already done. And let's see what the last phase looks like. Nope, that's just round one, sadly. Nope, oh well. I thought you could actually start something there. Nope, okay. Ah, it starts this, okay. So everything looks a lot more complicated. It kind of is. It kind of isn't. You gotta be very careful with your timing here because it's very easy to get bit by that guy. Or, you know, you could squish him to begin with and not have to deal with it. But you need to raise up here. And now he's kind of out of the picture. So yeah, if you were to play this normally, you would definitely have to get mastery of timing and all that. But also, if you notice, if we go to the left, we can't get back up. Kind of mean the way the game did that. There we go. So see, the game does get a little trickier towards the end. Not much. And back to phase one. I think it adds more smicks on the second loop or something like that. I don't know. I don't know what all the differences are. But anyway, I think we know how we have to end this. There. Anyway, that's more than enough of this game. We will be back tomorrow with... Okay, it's more like good. Hopefully I can actually show off something there. But anyway, Hogan's Alley tomorrow. We've got one more R.O.B game that's not really a game in what most people consider it to be later. But that will be for a couple weeks down the line. Anyway, take care everyone. See you back tomorrow for Hogan's Alley.